There's a place where deserts are incredibly diverse. The Southwest Arid Zone. This diversity takes many different forms. There's the incredible beauty, harshness, and diversity of the landscape. Colors in red and brown and grey. The landscape has a really unique character. This contrast between harsh, dry barrenness to truly striking beauty. Life within the desert provides its own contrasts. One way to talk about this diversity is to talk about the different desert types. These are the arid savannas, often referred to as the Kalahari, the Namib desert, the succulent Karoo, and the Nama Karoo. The Kalahari is probably Southern Africa's best known desert region, but the Kalahari is also the least deserty desert of Southern Africa's dry regions. The Kalahari is really just a massive dry savanna. So these arid savannas extend over a huge area, including pretty much the whole country of Botswana, into Zimbabwe, into Namibia, and into South Africa. But it's kind of hard to define the Kalahari desert. The Kalahari is savanna, and so that means that you have brush, you have bushes essentially, sometimes trees, and they are spaced enough that there's grass growing between them. If the Kalahari is savanna, why do we say it's a desert? The reason is because it falls below a certain rainfall threshold. There's not a lot of rain that falls in this region. But still, the Kalahari is really referring to a sand basin, a big area that's very flat and sandy. But the arid savannas extend beyond that into the hilly regions to the west. So very generally we can refer to the arid savannas as essentially this very dry area that forms a buffer with the wetter savannas to the east, and the arid savannas lie east of the other deserts. The next desert is the Namib. The Namib lies along the coastline and is probably best known for sausage and sausage really is just a small portion of a massive area of dunes, and that in itself is just a small portion of the Namib desert itself. Beyond the dunes, the Namib also has very vast gravel plains. These regions are not nearly as attractive as the dunes, but they hold a very interesting, highly adapted array of life. Then you've got the hills, and again the hills hold a huge diversity of life forms. The hills are very diverse in themselves. Some areas are very hilly with lots of hills. Some hills are very isolated, and so there's a huge amount of endemicism, things that are found just a small group of hills. There's even hills within the dune fields that hold their own unique character. So the hills are an important part of the diversity of the Namib. One very unique thing about the Namib, although it does apply to the succulent Karoo as well, is the fog. Not just that there is fog, but fog becomes a primary source of moisture for the very far west of the Namib desert. The whole ecosystem has developed being fog dependent. And then another aspect of the Namib that's really important is the dry riverbeds. This allows an ecosystem to exist within the desert that wouldn't otherwise be possible. Water comes in from the catchment areas to the east and creates a savanna-like finger through the Namib. These riverbeds are usually dry, but they still provide an important source of life. After the Namib, the next ecosystem that we'll look at, the next desert, is the succulent Karoo. The succulent karoo is made up of dwarf shrubs, small shrubs, that are primarily succulents. It is massively diverse. There's a very, very large plant diversity within this area, and the region is most well known for its very colorful shows during the times that the flowers are in bloom. In Namibia, where I used to be a guide, the succulent karoo meets the Namib desert near the famous ghost town of Kolmanskop. Our final desert type is the Nama Karoo. The Nama Karoo extends over a huge part of the interior of South Africa itself, and it extends just into the bottom part of Namibia, around the region of the Fish River Canyon. The karoo doesn't always look appealing. It's made up of small dwarf shrubs and grasses, but it's a pretty incredible ecosystem. It is very diverse and very important in terms of things like sheep farming in the region. The karoo is pretty important in my own journey to becoming somebody who's knowledgeable and interested in deserts. I had the opportunity to work at a desert research station in the Karoo when I was still a student, and met some scientists who'd worked on a book called The Living Deserts of Southern Africa, and that book was a major help in the early years of getting to know the deserts of Southern Africa, and to a large extent the way that I've framed the 4 different deserts of Southern Africa is still based on that book. I made this video in part because I got a comment saying, first of all, I don't see the difference between the Namib and the Kalahari, so hopefully that makes it clear. But it is a topic that I'm very interested in, and there'll certainly be much more of this kind of stuff coming up on my channel. If you're the kind of person who has wanderlust, loves to know about places, and enjoys the kind of content that I make, I'd be thrilled if you subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, and thank you so much for watching. See you next time.